Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at virginiafarmbureau.com.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Hello everyone and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce all the wonderful local products we enjoy, brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau.
Virginia farmers are working with beekeepers to keep beehives healthy. Chef Maxwell shares his recipe for a crab mousse, and we take you to the eastern shore of Virginia to highlight the agriculture of Accomack County.
Welcome back, everyone. We are coming to you from this beautiful backyard in Henrico County where they are raising bees, as you can see behind me. And many farmers will tell you that the bees on their farm sometimes work harder than they do. Dave Miller reports there's a new state-sponsored pollinator protection plan.
Honeybees and farmers have always enjoyed a good working relationship. Crops provide pollen, and bees spread that pollen, making plants thrive and produce. Virginia crops that depend on pollinators to develop their fruits include apples, pumpkins, cucumbers, squash, and blueberries. In fact, nearly one-third of our fruits and vegetables depend on insects like honeybees for pollination.
Virginia just went through a process of adopting a managed pollinator protection plan. The emphasis or the focus of that plan is to address the risk of pesticides to our pollinators, specifically to the honeybee. Part of that plan is best management practices for our applicators, whether they're a farmer, whether they're a commercial applicator, landowners, also for our beekeepers to provide protection and sustainability of our honeybees. One of the things that applicators can do is to look at the formulation of the pesticide that they're using, the toxicity that it has to the honeybees and other pollinators, time of day. Many of our crops, many of our plants, the pollen and nectar is not available in the afternoon, so a later in the day application can actually be beneficial to our pollinators.
The state pollinator plan depends on communication between farmers and beekeepers. Angie Sears, owner of Hanover Vegetable Farm, started keeping bees about a year ago. Sears, who lives in a century-old farmhouse that once served as a rural star post office, took to the process like bees to honey.
Had a thought one day I'd like to keep bees and talked to my husband about it, and he was all for it, living on a farm. He thought, yeah, that would really help. So I just started reading and going to bee meetings, and last year got my first set of bees, and so now I got 2 hives, now I have 4, and it's just been awesome.
Sears said there is much to be learned about bees and their behavior. She recommends going to a county beekeeping meeting. She plans on producing honey for her customers by next year, saying that most ask for local honey. One beehive can contain from 10 to 60,000 bees and can produce from 25 to 60 pounds of honey per season.
Individuals can help out our pollinators through providing them a food source. What our pollinators are looking for is that nectar, the pollen that's in those plants, those flowering plants, to provide them a food that they can continue to live off of, but also to produce more pollinators for us. And so by putting out gardens with flowers or crops that produce pollen, nectar for the food, making sure that there's a good food resource out there, good habitat for our pollinators as well. Many of our pollinators are nest in our forest, nest in the ground and so forth, and so providing them a place that they can nest in also increases that population.
Tigner says that when beekeepers provide a habitat around their hives, it helps to make the bees return home after a day's work in the fields and gardens. However, like most businesses, the manager needs to guide and nurture their employees.
It's just paying attention and really watching the bees, watching their behavior, and just reading and getting with other beekeepers. It's really just learning. That's the big part. The actual work is not hard. I didn't ever really think about it as deep as I think about it now, how important the pollinators are to us. We definitely see a big difference having the pollinators on the farm versus not having them as far as the way our crops go.
Open communication between beekeeper and producer will be critical for the success of the program, which in turn will help honeybees thrive and crops grow, all in a cycle to produce and feed the community and the world. In Hanover County, this is Dave Miller.
While honey produced by bees is a delicious and nutritious food, the real value of honeybees is their pollination activities. Honeybees add an estimated $23 million to the value of Virginia's apple crop each year, according to a study by the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. And that's just one of the dozens of fruit and vegetable crops that pollinate each growing season, including peanuts, cucumbers, onions, pumpkins, cabbage, peppers, peaches, grapes, tomatoes, squash, and zucchini. Pollination by honeybees adds an estimated $15 billion to the U.S. fruit and vegetable economy each year.
I'm Mark Viette. Coming up on In the Garden, I'm going to talk about something you're probably hearing about a lot more in the news, and that is ticks. Stay with us.
More than 90 years ago, the Virginia Farm Bureau made a promise to our local farmers to protect and preserve a way of life they'd worked so hard to establish. Today, our insurance agents work to protect all Virginians, not just farmers. Anyone can be a Farm Bureau member and enjoy the many benefits of membership. There's a local Farm Bureau in every county of the state. We think everyone should be a friend of the farm. Visit our website at virginiafarmbureau.com to learn more.
Ticks can be a real problem for anyone who works outside. Today, Mark Viette shows us how to prevent tick bites in the garden.
Over the last many years, ticks have really become more of a problem in our outdoor places. You know, it could be where we're hiking and walking, or it could be right in our own backyard. There are a couple things that you can do to help mitigate or reduce the incidence of ticks. Of course, one of the things that you can do is there's certain sprays that are labeled for ticks. Bonide, Bayer Advanced, they make products that will help control ticks. As always, with all chemicals, either organic or non-organic, I recommend that you read the label. There are also some home remedies people have put together. I'm not quite sure all of those work. But the thing you have to really worry about ticks is that, there's a lot of different species of ticks, but the deer tick is so small and so tiny, many of us never even know we were bit by a deer tick. And deer tick can spread Lyme disease. There's also the larger tick, or the dog tick that we sometimes see, that can spread a meat allergy, red meat allergy, that will last for 2 years. And for the first time, from my understanding in Virginia, the power sand virus has been found. And that is far more serious than Lyme disease. In fact, some people don't survive from that. So it is important that we pay attention to our surroundings and help eliminate a possibility of being bit by a tick. In areas that you keep mowed shortly, like the lawn, you might not have to worry about a lot of ticks. But it's in those areas that border your property where you might have some tall grass, some shrubs. You know, ticks could be anywhere from, the ground level up to maybe 3 or 4 feet in height. One thing I do want to mention, there's some great repellents that you can use. Always follow the label directions. Some are great for clothes, some you can apply to yourself. There are also some pre-treatment products that you can use on your clothes. Just read the label. And not only do ticks affect us, they also affect our plants. So in some of these areas around your garden, the choices are to eliminate some of those grassy areas where you might be actively involved in the garden. And the other thing is, if you do use sprays, according to the label directions, you can also spray these areas. What I normally do is use repellents. And if I've been walking through areas where there's tall grass or weeds, I'll go home, I'll throw my clothes in the dryer for maybe 20 minutes or so to kill the ticks that might be present there. I also take a shower. But remember, you might not see the small, tiny ticks. So keep that in mind. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, go to inthegardenradio.com.
Summer is the perfect time to enjoy fresh Virginia blue crab. Chef Maxwell shares a new recipe using crab up next.
The State Fair of Virginia is known for its family-friendly atmosphere, exciting attractions, and of course, fabulous fair food. The most important focus continues to be youth and adult livestock competitions, and dozens of competitions where other Virginians can win a coveted State Fair blue ribbon. Everything from prize vegetables to baked goods to crafts and photography are featured each year as the best of the best. To learn more about this year's State Fair of Virginia, visit our website at statefairva.org.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
You typically think of a mousse as being a sweet dessert, but this savory recipe from Chef John Maxwell uses Virginia blue crab as its key ingredient in the heart of the home.
Hi, we're here at Meadow Hall in Meadow Event Park in Doswell, Virginia. We're getting the chance to play with some great Virginia food from the dairy industry and from the ocean. So we're going to combine a crab meat and cream in a wonderful crab meat mousse. So we're going to start right away on that. I've got some gelatin that I want to dissolve. If you can look here, I've got a measuring cup in a saucepan of hot water that keeps the water hot but doesn't let it boil, because that would kind of disrupt the process. And I'm going to add a tablespoon of the gelatin. All right, and mix that in good, and let that stay getting hot, and I'll hold it warm, right, so that it stays in liquid form. I don't want it to start solidifying yet. Now I've got a bowl here and a wire whip and a cup of heavy cream. Now you can get this in any grocery store. All right, I'm going to set that over there. And I'm going to whisk this till it's thick. Now, it doesn't take long if the bowl is cold and the cream is cold. Now, the wire whip should be flexible. You can use an electric whipper, an electric mixer to do this, but you have to be careful with heavy cream because that's how you make butter. You whip heavy cream until it's thick, and you've got butter. So if you just one step less than butter is what we're looking for here, and it's easier for me to control with the wire whisk. All right, so here we've got the cream whipped, all right, into soft peaks, which is just where we want it to be. All right, now I'm going to set that aside, right, and bring in another bowl, right, and add the mayonnaise. I'm going to add some chives and some parsley and some Dijon mustard, a little lemon juice and some lime juice. And if you go to chefmaxwell.com, these recipes will be up there, so you'll be able to know exactly how much of each item you need to do with, and you can print out the copy of the recipe. They're also going to be available on the Farm Bureau website. So get this mixed in here. All right. I'm going to add this in here. And put that around. Now I'm going to add the heavy cream that's whipped. And mix that around and fold in the crab meat. This is good back fin crab meat. You can use any kind of crab meat you want. You can use Alaskan crab meat if you wanted to, but I don't recommend it because it's not from Virginia. And you can use even some of that imitation crab meat if you really wanted to, but it's not going to turn out as well. This is with back fin crab meat. I like to use a little claw in it sometimes too. All right. And you got a few minutes to do this, but you want to work as quick as you can because you don't want that gelatin to set up. Now I'm going to get my mold and a can of vegetable spray. Make sure you use one with a nice wide spray and no flour in it, no baker's spray. So I'm just going to spray the inside of this lightly, all right, and add the mousse to it. I'm going to smooth it around, and then I'm going to just tap it. Make sure there's no air bubbles in it, make sure there's no gaps where it sets. And now this will go into the refrigerator for, I like to leave it in for about 4 hours, make sure it's chilled really, really well. But it can go in one day and be used the next or 2 days later. It's got a good shelf life. So I'm going to put this in the refrigerator. All right, so now this is nice and firm. It's been sitting in there for a while. Now I'm going to get ready to unmold this. And it doesn't take an awful lot. You can take a wet towel and do this because you just want to soften the gelatin in here a little bit where it hits the metal. So all we really want to do is take the chill off the metal. All right? And I'm going to put it onto this plate. All right? So I've got a pan here with some warm water in it. And I'm going to just set that down in there for a couple of seconds, just to let it soften the gelatin where it comes in contact with the pan. All right, so now I'm going to set this over top of the mold. It's the plate I'm going to serve it on. I'm going to turn it over. And out it comes. So here we have it, crab meat mousse. I'm going to decorate this with some citrus fruit. It's great for any kind of an event. Look for Labor Day if you're having a party then. If not, it's just great for a Sunday afternoon. Join us next week on Heart of the Home when we get to play with more great Virginia food.
Recipes from the heart of the home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com, as well as on Chef Maxwell's website at chefjohnmaxwell.com. Blue crabs are considered the most valuable seafood sector in the Old Dominion, worth more than $30 million each year. At the beginning of 2016, about 194 million female adult crabs were estimated to be in the Chesapeake Bay, below the preferred amount of 215 million female crabs, but well above the lowest threshold of 70 million breeding crabs. The crab population has rebounded from about 15 years ago, when the numbers had shrunk so low the industry was threatened. While oysters and clams can be raised in contained systems, almost all Virginia crabs are still caught in the wild by crabbers.
This week we travel to the Eastern Shore as we continue our reports on agriculture in Virginia. Accomack County farmers and the ag economy make a huge difference for this coastal community.
Located on Virginia's Eastern Shore, Accomack County is some of the most fertile land in the state. The Eastern Shore is part of the Delmarva Peninsula, bordered by the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean, and includes parts of 3 states. Agriculture and aquaculture thrive here, making Accomack the 3rd largest agricultural county in the state.
Agriculture and aquaculture are huge industries to Accomack County here on the Eastern Shore. Right off the top, we grow 25% of Virginia's soybeans. Accomack County does. We're the number one county for production for corn in the state of Virginia. If you live on the Eastern Shore, you are involved and touched by agriculture in one or aquaculture in one way or another.
In fact, Accomack County ranks first or second in the state for most field crops. Field crops include soybeans, corn, wheat, and vegetables. They rank second for broiler chicken production with 6.7 million birds on 48 farms. There are 226 farms with more than 77,000 acres in production, and the agriculture industry in Accomack County generates more than $172 million in farm income each year.
I refer to the Eastern Shore of Virginia, Accomack County, as the last frontier of the eastern seaboard. And we have the Chesapeake Bay to our west and the Atlantic Ocean to our east, and has a moderating effect on our weather here, and also our proximity to the markets.
You know, you can't go into town, in any part of any town, and not see a roadside stand. You can get fresh vegetables. You can get, you know, you can even go into Walmart and get local Accomack County, Dublin Farms potatoes. You can even get C&E Farms snap beans, and that's local vegetables grown here on the Eastern Shore for Eastern Shore consumers to receive.
While agriculture is the largest industry in Accomack County, federal regulations have changed what is grown on area farms. Farmers who were once large-scale vegetable growers, like Gail, are now growing grains, keeping their family farms in production.
I have seen more row crop production. The tomato production has reduced in acreage, and we're trying to expand our opportunities here. For example, last year I grew canola for Purdue. Primarily, I would say it is due to the effects of NAFTA. The majority of tomatoes that we see in the local grocery stores are from Canada and Mexico. There is a good amount of local produce, and that's why people are accessing the local farmers markets.
The Eastern Shore used to produce, you know, upwards of over 60% of, or 60% or over of the vegetables in the state of Virginia. Now we're seeing more row crops. But, you know, that's also the food safety and labor played a part in that.
While farmers continue to work hard to keep their lands productive, another industry in the area is helping boost the bottom line. Tourism on the county's Chincoteague and Assateague Islands open up new opportunities for growers.
Anybody with a cornfield typically has a corn maze, or if you've got some pumpkins, you've got to pick your own pumpkin patch, and we've got a large blueberry pick your own. So there's some agritourism here in Accomack County.
Keeping the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic clean is important to area farmers. Most growers use best management practices on their farms, which helps to keep waterways healthy and clean, and in turn keeps their farmland productive.
It means a lot to me in that, of course, my son is working with me in the farm operation, and it's a great place for families to grow up and live. Well, it is nice when I ride up and down this field behind me and get to look out on the ocean, particularly early in the morning. It's very, very pretty.
Pride for the land runs deep through Accomack County, and the farmers here are looking forward to seeing agriculture continue to thrive for the next generation. Protecting the environment, adapting to changing markets, and working hand in hand with the community is helping keep their communities and agriculture strong.
That's going to do it for this edition of Real Virginia. We are so glad you could join us to celebrate the bounty that Virginia has to offer. Whether it's in your home, your garden, or your landscape, we are proud to say that this is Real Virginia. So for everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a good week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay.